The words cut deeper than any scalpel ever could. "You need to sign these papers, Mom. Right now." My daughter's voice was cold, clinical, nothing like the little girl who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms. I gripped the armrest of my wheelchair, still groggy from the pain medication. 3 weeks since my hip replacement surgery. 3 weeks since my daughter and her husband had moved into my house to help me recover. Help. That's what Jessica had called it, when she'd shown up with suitcases, and her husband Derek trailing behind her. The kitchen light was too bright. My vision swam as I tried to focus on the stack of legal documents she'd slammed onto the table in front of me. "What papers?" My voice came out thin, weak. "Power of attorney." Derek stepped forward, pen in hand. His smile didn't reach his eyes. "It's for your own protection, Margaret, in case something happens." "Something happens?" "I'm recovering from surgery, not dying." Jessica leaned down until her face was inches from mine. Her perfume was suffocating, something expensive that smelled like lilies at a funeral. "Mom, you're 72 years old. You live alone. You just had major surgery. What if you fall again? What if you can't make decisions for yourself? We need to be prepared." The room tilted. I'd been a nurse for 41 years. I'd seen families do this before. Seen them hover over hospital beds with papers and pens, waiting for the morphine to kick in before asking for signatures. I never thought I'd be on the receiving end. "Hi everyone. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Margaret Sullivan. I'm 72 years old, and I spent 4 decades as an emergency room nurse at Riverside General Hospital in Columbus, Ohio. I've held the hands of dying patients, delivered babies in the back of ambulances, and worked double shifts during 3 different flu epidemics. These hands that now shake when I try to hold a coffee cup have saved more lives than I can count. But none of that prepared me for what my own daughter was about to do. I need to tell you about Jessica first, about the daughter I raised alone after her father left us when she was 6 years old. Richard Sullivan walked out on a Tuesday morning, said he was going to get cigarettes from the gas station on 5th Street. He never came back. I found out 3 weeks later that he'd been having an affair with his secretary. They moved to California together. He sent divorce papers instead of child support. I was 31 years old with a 6-year-old daughter, a mortgage I couldn't afford, and a nursing job that barely covered the bills. The other nurses told me to move back in with my parents, told me to find another husband, told me I couldn't do this alone. I picked up extra shifts instead. Worked nights so I could be home when Jessica got off the school bus. Slept 4 hours a day for years. Made sure my daughter had new shoes when she needed them, braces when the dentist recommended them, a used car when she turned 16. I missed her dance recitals because I was intubating patients in the ER. Missed her graduation because a multi-car pileup came in and they needed every available nurse. Sent money for her college instead of being there for move-in day. Always sent money. Always worked. Always sacrificed. Jessica met Derek in her junior year of college. He came from money. Old money. The kind that came with country club memberships and summer houses on Lake Erie. His family looked at me like I was something stuck to the bottom of their designer shoes. The nurse, the single mother, the woman who showed up to their engagement party in a dress from JCPenney while everyone else wore designer labels. The wedding cost $60,000. Derek's family paid for most of it, but I contributed what I could. $15,000 that wiped out my emergency savings. I smiled through the ceremony even though they'd seated me at a back table with distant relatives nobody remembered inviting. After the wedding, the phone calls got shorter. Visits became rare. They moved to Chicago for Derek's job in finance, 4 hours away by car. Might as well have been 4,000 miles. But when I fell in my bathroom and shattered my hip, when I lay on the cold tile floor for 6 hours before my neighbor Helen found me, when the surgeon said I'd need a full hip replacement and months of recovery, I called my daughter. "Mom, that's terrible." Her voice cracked like it used to when she was little. "Do you need us to come home?" "I'll manage." "No, you shouldn't go through this alone. Let me talk to Derek." 2 days later, she called back. They'd decided to move in temporarily. Derek could work remotely. They'd help me through recovery. Jessica had some business to take care of in Ohio anyway, something about looking at investment properties. I cried when I hung up. Not from fear about the surgery, from relief that my daughter still loved me, still wanted to take care of her mother the way I'd taken care of her. I should have known better. Lying in my wheelchair now, legal documents spread across the kitchen table. I finally understood the truth I'd been too blind to see. I'm not signing anything tonight. I pushed the papers away. My attorney can look at these first. Derek's jaw tightened. Jessica, talk to your mother. Mom, we're trying to help you. Jessica's voice had that edge to it, the one she used when she didn't get what she wanted. You're being paranoid. Then you won't mind if my lawyer reviews the documents. The silence stretched between us like a rubber band about to snap. Fine. Jessica snatched the papers off the table. We'll discuss this tomorrow when you're thinking more clearly. The medication is obviously affecting your judgment. She stormed out of the kitchen. Derek followed without a word. I sat alone in my wheelchair, heart pounding, wondering if I was overreacting, wondering if the pain pills really were making me paranoid. But I'd spent 41 years reading people in crisis. I knew what desperation looked like. I knew what greed looked like, and I'd seen both in my daughter's eyes tonight. The first week after my surgery had been almost normal. Jessica drove me to follow-up appointments. Derek set up his laptop in my office, working remotely but available if I needed anything. They made meals, simple things, sandwiches and soup from cans, but they made them. The trouble started on day 10. I woke up at 5 in the morning with my hip throbbing like someone had driven a nail through the bone. The pain medication I'd taken at midnight had worn off. I needed the next dose desperately. I reached for the call button they'd set up on my nightstand, pressed it, waited, pressed it again. 45 minutes later, Jessica appeared in my doorway. She was already dressed in yoga pants and a designer top that probably cost more than my grocery budget for a month. What is it, Mum? I need my pain medication. The prescription says every 4 to 6 hours is needed. You had pills 4 hours ago. That was at midnight. It's almost 6 now. Jessica crossed her arms. The doctor said to take them sparingly. You don't want to develop a dependency. I read an article about the opioid crisis. Older people are especially vulnerable. I just had major surgery. The pain is. Everyone has pain, Mom. You need to build tolerance. You can't just take pills every time something hurts. She left, closed the door. I heard her footsteps going down the hall, heard the front door open and close, her morning run. She never missed her morning run. I lay in bed shaking. The hip felt like it was grinding glass with every micro-movement. Tears leaked from the corners of my eyes and ran down into my hair. 2 hours later, she finally brought the medication, dropped the pills on the nightstand without looking at me. Don't ask for extra doses again. It's for your own good. I took the pills with trembling hands, swallowed them with water that had gone warm sitting overnight. That night, I heard them talking in the living room. The walls in this old house were thin. I'd never noticed before because I'd always lived alone. How much longer is this going to take? Derek's voice, impatient. I don't know. She's more stubborn than I expected. We need those power of attorney documents signed before the window closes. The buyer won't wait forever. I know. Jessica's sigh was heavy. I'll work on her. She's weak right now. Confused. It shouldn't be much longer. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my surgical site. What buyer? What window? I needed to find out what they were planning. I needed evidence. The next morning, I asked Derek to bring me my laptop. Said I wanted to check my email, stay connected to friends. He seemed reluctant but eventually retrieved it from my office. What he didn't know was that I'd installed a home security system 2 years ago. 4 cameras, 1 at each entrance, plus 1 in my home office where I kept my important documents. The footage backed up automatically to cloud storage. My neighbor Helen had helped me set it up after there were some break-ins in the neighborhood. I waited until Jessica and Derek went out for lunch. Then I opened the security app with trembling fingers. What I found made my blood run cold. The footage was from the day after my surgery, when I was still in the hospital overnight for observation. The timestamp read 3:47 p.m. Derek entered my office. He looked around carefully, then approached my filing cabinet, the one where I kept all my important documents. He tried the lock, failed, then pulled out a small toolkit. Within minutes, he had it open. He photographed everything. My will, the deed to my house, my bank statements, my retirement account information. He studied each document, his mouth moving as he read. Then Jessica walked in. They spoke quietly, heads together. I couldn't hear what they were saying. but I could see Derek showing her something on his phone. Something that made Jessica smile. It was a small smile, satisfied, calculating. The smile of someone who had just found exactly what they were looking for. I saved that footage immediately, copied it to 3 different cloud accounts. Then I kept watching. Over the next several days, there were more clips. Jessica, on the phone in the kitchen, speaking in hushed tones. The buyer is getting impatient. We need to move faster. Derek on his laptop in my office, scrolling through what looked like real estate listings, local assisted living facilities, and then a conversation that made everything crystal clear. It was from 2 days ago. Jessica and Derek in my living room, voices low but audible. The house is worth at least $400,000, Derek said. More if we renovate the kitchen first. We can list it within a month of getting the power of attorney. What about her? What about your mother? Jessica's laugh was sharp enough to cut glass. There's a facility in Newark. Medicaid will cover most of it once we drain her accounts. She won't even know the difference. She's already half confused from the medication. And if she fights it? She won't. Derek's voice was smug. I talked to a lawyer. With the right documentation, we can have her declared incompetent. Medical records showing confusion, missed medication doses, erratic behavior. It's easier than you'd think with someone her age. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the laptop. My own daughter, planning to steal my house, planning to have me committed, planning to drain my life savings and dump me in a facility to rot. I saved every clip, made backup after backup. Then I did something I should have done the moment they showed up with those power of attorney papers. I called an old friend. Nancy Chen had been an ER nurse with me for 23 years before she went to law school. She was 68 now, semi-retired, but she still took cases that mattered to her. Cases involving elder abuse. Margaret, slow down. Nancy's voice was calm, steady. Tell me everything. I told her. About the surgery. About the medication being withheld. About the conversations I'd overheard. About the security footage. About the power of attorney papers they wanted me to sign. Silence on the other end. Then, I'm coming over. When are they usually out of the house? Jessica goes to the gym every afternoon. 2-hour sessions. Never misses them. I'll be there at 2 o'clock. Don't tell anyone I'm coming. Nancy arrived right on time. She brought a younger woman with her, someone I didn't recognize. Margaret, this is my niece, Detective Carla Reyes, Columbus PD, Elder Abuse Unit. I looked at the detective, confused. I haven't filed a police report. Not yet. Carla sat down at my kitchen table. But based on what Aunt Nancy told me, we might need to. Can you show me that security footage? I showed them everything. They watched in silence. Nancy's face grew harder with each clip. Carla took notes. This is textbook elder exploitation, Carla said when the footage ended. Financial abuse. Possibly criminal neglect if they're withholding medication. Do you have documentation of the medication issue? I keep a log. 41 years of nursing taught me to document everything. I reached for my notebook on the nightstand. Every dose they gave me, every dose they refused, every time I had to wait hours for pain relief. Nancy smiled. Same old Margaret, always keeping records. We worked for 2 hours. Nancy drafted new legal documents while Carla asked questions and took notes. A new will that left everything to charity. New power of attorney that named Nancy as my representative. A formal statement documenting everything Jessica and Derek had done. I want you to know something, I said as I signed the last document. I'm not doing this for revenge. I'm doing this because my daughter became someone I don't recognize, and I need to protect myself. You're doing the right thing, Nancy said. But Margaret, there's something else we need to discuss. Based on what we've seen, I think we need to set a trap. What kind of trap? We need them to show their true colors completely. On camera, with witnesses, so there's no way they can claim this was a misunderstanding. It took 3 more days. 3 days of playing weak, 3 days of pretending the medication made me confused, 3 days of letting them think they were winning. On day 23 after my surgery, everything came to a head. I'd managed to get out of bed that morning, using my walker to shuffle toward the bathroom. My hips screamed with every step, but I'd been a nurse. I knew how to work through pain. I paused in the hallway, catching my breath, and that's when I heard them in the living room. This is taking too long. Derek's voice was tight with frustration. The buyer wants an answer by Friday. If we don't close the deal on the house, we lose the investment opportunity. I know, Jessica sounded stressed, but she won't sign the papers. She keeps asking for her lawyer. Then we accelerate the plan. Derek's voice dropped. I talked to Dr. Morrison. He's willing to sign off on a competency evaluation. For the right price. You mean? I mean we get her declared incompetent this week. Emergency guardianship. I've already drawn up the paperwork. Once we're her legal guardians, we can make all the decisions. What if she fights it in court? Derek laughed. With what money? We'll have control of her accounts by then. She'll be in a facility before she can even find a lawyer. My foot caught on the hallway rug. I stumbled, grabbed for the wall, knocked over a vase. It shattered on the hardwood floor. Everything went silent in the living room. Mom! Jessica's voice was sharp. Are you up? I tried to move, tried to get back to my bedroom, but my hip wouldn't cooperate. The pain was blinding. Jessica rounded the corner. Her eyes went from me to the broken vase to the hallway. You were listening. Not a question. An accusation. I just needed to use the bathroom. You were spying on us. Her voice rose. What did you hear? Nothing. I was just... Jessica's hand shot out and grabbed my arm. The fingers dug in hard enough to bruise. What did you hear? Let go of me. My voice shook. You're hurting me. Tell me what you heard. I heard everything. The words came out before I could stop them. About the buyer. About the competency evaluation. About dumping me in a facility so you can steal my house? Jessica's face went pale, then red, then twisted into something I didn't recognize. Steal? We're not stealing anything. This house should be mine. I'm your only child. Everything you have should be mine. This is my home. I paid for it. I worked double shifts for 30 years to pay off the mortgage. And I had to grow up without a mother because you were always at work. Jessica's voice cracked. You chose your job over me. Every single time. You owe me, Mom. You owe me for all the years I spent alone. Derek appeared behind her. He looked calm, calculating. Jessica, we should call Dr. Morrison now. Tell him she's having an episode. Paranoid delusions, aggressive behavior. It'll help with the competency case. I'm not having delusions. I'm finally seeing clearly. Derek pulled out his phone. I'm calling 911. Going to tell them my mother-in-law is having a mental breakdown. I tried to reach for my own phone, tucked in the pocket of my robe. But Jessica was faster. She snatched it from me. You're not calling anyone. She threw my phone across the hall. It hit the wall. The screen cracked. That's when I saw movement through the living room window. A car pulling into the driveway. Right on schedule. Derek, someone's here. Jessica's head whipped toward the window. The doorbell rang. Don't answer it. Derek's voice was sharp, but the front door was already opening. I never locked it during the day. Small town habit. Margaret, Helen's voice. My neighbor of 15 years. Margaret, are you home? I brought the casserole you asked for. Footsteps in the entryway. Then, Helen appeared in the hallway. 74 years old, grandmother of 6, and sharp as a tack. Behind her was Nancy, and behind Nancy was Detective Carla Reyes, and behind Carla were 2 uniformed officers. Jessica's face went white. What is this? Derek's voice cracked. Margaret. Helen's eyes swept over the scene. The broken vase. Jessica's hand still gripping my arm. The bruises already forming on my skin. What's going on here? Detective Reyes stepped forward. Jessica Sullivan? Derek Morrison? I'm Detective Carla Reyes, Columbus Police Department, Elder Abuse Unit. We have a warrant for your arrest. Arrest? Jessica's grip on my arm loosened. For what? Elder abuse. Financial exploitation. Criminal conspiracy to commit fraud. Carla pulled out handcuffs. And assault. Based on what I just witnessed. This is a misunderstanding. Derek's smooth voice was back, but I could hear the panic underneath. We're family. We're trying to help her. Help? Nancy stepped forward, her lawyer voice emerging. I've reviewed security footage showing you breaking into Margaret's filing cabinet. I've documented weeks of medication being deliberately withheld. I have recordings of your conversations about having her declared incompetent so you could steal her house. That's not Jessica started. And I've been recording since I walked through that door. Carla held up her phone. Including you grabbing your elderly post-surgical mother hard enough to leave bruises. The officers moved forward with handcuffs. Mom. Jessica's voice was suddenly small, desperate. Mom, please. Tell them this is a mistake. Tell them we were just trying to help you. I looked at my daughter. The little girl who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms. The teenager. I'd worked 3 jobs to put through college. The woman I'd given everything for. You tried to steal my house. My voice was steady. You wanted to have me declared incompetent. You were going to dump me in a facility and take everything I've worked for my entire life. I'm your daughter. A real daughter wouldn't do this. The officers led them out. Derek was silent. Jessica was crying, saying it was all a misunderstanding, that she loved me, that she'd never meant to hurt me. I watched them put my daughter in the back of a police car, and I felt something I hadn't expected. Nothing. No grief. No anger. Just a cold, empty space where my love for her used to be. The trial was 6 months later. Derek faced charges of conspiracy to commit financial exploitation, breaking and entering, and assault. The security footage played in court. The medication log I'd kept played in court. The recordings Nancy and Carla had made played in court. Derek's lawyer tried to argue it was a family dispute, that I was a difficult patient, that they'd been overwhelmed with caregiving duties. The jury didn't buy it. 8 hours of deliberation, and they came back with guilty on all counts. Derek got 3 years. He'd serve at least 18 months. Jessica faced lesser charges because she hadn't physically broken into my filing cabinet, but she was found guilty of conspiracy and elder abuse. She got 2 years, suspended sentence, 5 years probation, 200 hours of community service at an elder care facility, and a restraining order that meant she couldn't come within 500 feet of me. She wrote me letters after the verdict, apologies, explanations, promises that Derek had manipulated her, that she'd been confused, that she still loved me. I didn't open a single one. I sold the house 6 months after the trial. Too many memories. Too many ghosts in those hallways. The bathroom where I'd fallen. The kitchen where they'd demanded I sign those papers. The living room where I'd heard them plotting to steal my life. I bought a smaller place in a 55-plus community. Nice people. Daily activities. A book club I joined. A garden I tend. A life I rebuilt from the wreckage. My savings went into a trust. When I die, the money will fund scholarships for nursing students. Young women who want to spend their careers caring for others. The way I did. Jessica's name appears nowhere in my will. I teach a class now at the local community centre. Elder rights and self-protection. I tell them about keeping records, about documenting everything, about not assuming that family means safety. Trust but verify. I tell them, keep records, take photos, save emails, get everything in writing. Because sometimes the people who should love you most will be the ones who hurt you worst. Some of them are recovering from their own betrayals. Adult children who drained their bank accounts. Sons-in-law who tried to steal their houses. Daughters who saw them as ATMs with heartbeats. They understand what I'm teaching. They understand why protection matters. I got my justice. Not the dramatic kind you see in movies. Real justice. Documentation and evidence and lawyers who knew what they were doing. Real justice is rebuilding your life so you don't have to live in the place where you almost lost everything. If you've ever been betrayed by family, if you've ever been made to feel like a burden for needing help, if you've ever sacrificed everything only to be treated like you were worthless, you're not alone, you're not crazy, and you deserve better. What lesson from my story hit you hardest? And if you were in my shoes, would you have given your daughter another chance? Or would you have done what I did? Leave your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And don't stop here. Click the next video on your screen right now. There's one about a grandmother who discovered her son had been lying to her for 20 years, and the truth that came out changed everything. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, share your thoughts below. This community is about more than just stories. It's about surviving, about protecting ourselves, about making sure nobody can take what's rightfully ours. See you in the next one. I'm Margaret Sullivan. I'm 72 years old. I survived a shattered hip and 6 hours alone on a cold bathroom floor. I survived being betrayed by the daughter I raised alone. I survived her husband, trying to steal everything I'd built. And I'm still here, still standing, still fighting. That's exactly how it should be.